Hello and welcome to Unprofessional Engineering. My name is James.
You got Luke.
Luke, today we're talking about something that, I was pushing for.
I
And
know
you
you
just
are.
were fighting
You've been
and
pushing
fighting
this for a long time.
a long time. We're looking at how Mardi Gras floats are made.
Nothing like being a day late to the party.
A day late and a buck short. You know why we're so late? Luke.
Sorry.
It's all good. Fun fact for you to kick things off. The first Mardi Gras in the United States started in Mobile, Alabama, though the origins can be traced back to medieval Europe.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I got different stuff.
Well, you're wrong, like normal. But go ahead.
No, so mine was the first ever recorded Mardi Gras was celebrated in Louisiana at the mouth of the Mississippi River, which now the lower Plaquemines Parish. Wow, I'm terrible at spelling. In Louisiana on March 2nd, 1699.
Well, that's interesting, but you're wrong. It's fine.
I feel like we're just getting different data, so we could, like, you could be wrong.
I mean, I could be, but why would Mobile, Alabama have their own Mardi Gras stuff still if that wasn't the case?
Maybe that's where it started. I don't know.
That's what I said. All right, so moving on.
Shoot.
After that one. So also, side question here. Why do they have parishes? Don't they have counties like a real state? Stupid.
It's a French thing, is my guess.
Oh, yeah, French thing. All right, so all about Mardi Gras and how the floats are made. To get started there, it's all about Kern Studios in Mardi Gras World.
Yep,
Did I nail that?
you did.
So Kern Studios is the world's largest parade and float building company, which I wouldn't have thought you could make a career out of that, but they seem to be doing quite well for themselves.
They do.
So they basically make all of Mardi Gras, and that's not true, but they make a lot of it.
Yeah, vast majority of the floats are them.
Yeah, like huge ones too. They do a lot of the storing of the floats as well. Like
Yep.
you can pay to store your floats there.
They have a facility there that's over 200,000 square feet for storing and working on the floats down in the Lower Garden District.
They do. Yes, you're correct. I was there. I went on a tour of it. It was very
Really?
interesting. Yeah.
No wonder you've been pushing for this.
Well, so when I was in New Orleans, I went to Mardi Gras World, and it starts off with this video, which is very poorly done. And I was like super down on it. I was like, yeah, I wasted time coming to this thing. And then I went into the actual warehouse and the process that they go through. It's amazing.
So are you in New Orleans or are you in New Orleans?
I wanted to rant about that. Let me rant. How about that?
Okay.
You know what? Saying Nolans is stupid.
It's New Orleans.
You sound stupid when you say that. But if you're from New Orleans, then it's okay that you say that. But if you're from Pittsburgh, you don't say that. That's just stupid. You sound stupid when you say that.
Sorry, New Orleans.
Man, does that bother me.
Sorry. Wow. I feel like I hit a nerve.
Yeah, I don't know why people do that. Like, they have to say it like, oh.
Okay. Wow.
Kern Studios was founded in 1932, and it's still family-owned, like fourth generation. Pretty impressive.
Yeah, and so fun fact.
Ooh.
So the Kern Studio, he was doing artwork. The very original son of the father that started, like the very first generation, the son was actually trying to support his mother by doing mural paintings at a local, like on a wall at a local hospital, and one of the original crews. So this guy by the name of what the heck is his name? The name of their crew was Mardi Gras Crew of Allah. They actually invited Blaine, so this was Blaine Kern, the son of Roy, to actually design.
Roy started it?
Yeah, Roy started. His son, Blaine, he was actually an artist. This crew saw his work at a hospital, hired him to build the float for the crew. This was in 1932, and it was the first mule-drawn float built on the back of a garbage wagon.
Isn't that kind of cool? Like, you look
really
at these
cool.
really elaborate giant things now. The first one's pulled by a mule on
And it was a garbage
wagon.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And it was built by some kid that was probably like in his like late teens, early 20s.
Yeah. Man, how it's grown. All right, so like you said, there's like a 250,000 square foot warehouse, and that's basically what it is.
You know how many they build a year?
How many?
The Kerns?
100?
500 to 600 because everybody thinks they do this stuff just for Mardi Gras.
But they don't.
They do it for
No.
like Six Flags. I was just in Universal. They had all kinds of floats. They probably do them for like Universal and Disney.
Universal,
all over
Disney.
the world.
One of my favorites that I saw when I was there was, Chick-fil-A, how they have the ads with cows.
Yeah, eat more chicken.
Yeah, eat more chicken. They did a bunch of Chick-fil-A ones as well. And I was like, where do they even use these at? But there's like really elaborate designs. Like Vegas has a bunch of their floats and work outside of a lot of the shops as well.
Why did you have to say Chick-fil-A?
I'm sorry. It's
Now
so
I want
good.
Chick-fil-A.
I'm going to have it tomorrow.
Oh.
That's great. All right, 250,000 square foot facility in New Orleans. See how I said that? All right. It includes a whole bunch of people working there. Craftsmen, welders, sculptors, painters, and carpenters all working together to get this thing done. And you can go visit it to see how all of it works at Mardi Gras World. And I support doing that.
When you went to visit, was it they were actually like you were in the shop touring as they were sculpting and painting, or is it like a separate area and it was more like a display that you got to see?
So after the video, which you could maybe nap through, you go and you walk through the warehouse and you stop at basically like stations. Like, here's the person doing one thing. Here's the person painting.
Gotcha.
Here's the person doing this. And then they're like, all right, that's the tour. Go walk around. And you can go look at all the different floats.
Pretty cool.
And like, then they don't just have floats though. They have all these other props that they store and use at some other time or on other floats or just haven't been placed yet. And then you can see some of the more advanced things that we'll be talking about as well, which was really neat. They have year-round staff of 30 that works on Mardi Gras floats, but as time goes on, they up that number where they have 300 seasonal employees as well. Wow. So that's a pretty big production, Once they're in the parade, the floats are then brought back and reconfigured for the next year's parade. And usually there's a few floats for each crew that we'll get into the details more again later that are kind of like their flagships, but the rest of them get basically redone all the way through. Real expensive production as well. Let's see. Modernish process. You want to talk about how they're made?
Do you want to talk about the old school way first?
Ooh, yeah, old school.
Yeah, so the old school way of doing this, and we mentioned this is the first one was built on the back of a garbage wagon. But the old school way was literally, basically just making a basic wooden frame, attaching it to something with wheels, drawing it with either a mule or a truck or a tractor. And what they would do is build a wooden frame, which still happens today. But they used a ton of chicken wire, and if you know what chicken wire is, it's like that octagonal,
I know
super
chicken
thin,
wire.
And you can like bend it and form it. Assuming it's meant to keep chickens in a certain location.
It seems like that would be how it got its name. But in this case, there are no chickens involved.
There are no chickens involved.
Yeah.
Very good point, James. Thank you for pointing that out.
This is the value I bring.
And basically what they would do is and this had to be super difficult back then because you can see through the chicken wire. And I like the way they do it now with some of the styrofoam, which we'll talk about in a minute. But the way that they did it with chicken wire, like you're seeing through it. So to see like the contours and how it would be built would have to be super difficult. So what they do is
keeping those shapes too, because it's very pliable.
Yeah.
The chicken wire.
Yeah.
Is.
So what they do is they take the chicken wire, they kind of morph it to the shape they want, and then they take papier-mâché.
Yes. Okay. That's
the proper way of saying it. Papier-mâché.
That's the French way.
And which is really just basically brown craft paper, flour, and water. Nothing crazy, and they basically lay it on top of it and layer upon layer to get that rigid outside shape, and then they would go through the process of priming and painting, which is kind of what they still do now. But that underlayment of chicken wire, I just can't, and had to be like you couldn't lean
Probably
on
cut your
it.
hands up a lot too.
It had to be terrible.
Yeah. Then again, if it's on like a garbage truck, like a garbage wagon, does it have to look that good?
No,
People are just
probably not.
happy.
So that's the old school way. And the new, I'm not sure
the
how
modernish way is what I call it.
Okay.
But before we get into the modernish way, let's take a break for a word from our sponsor.
I have to assume that it's the Kern Studio. Right?
It is not. In fact, we do not have a sponsor, but we do have a lot of shout outs. I did want to say, if you haven't noticed and you're watching us on the video, we're all decked out with our sweet Mardi Gras beads.
All decked out?
I mean, as decked out as we get. How many times have we worn props before?
None.
Yeah, sweet coins and all. And how did we get these? It's from Adam from CAD Noobs, our boy. Probably one of our biggest fans, if not our biggest.
Gotta be.
Hooking us up with a delicious king cake. Hopefully no one chokes on the baby.
shared it with me
I
this
shared
year
it this
because
year.
last year we got a king cake and I never got a bite.
I ate the whole thing.
I was gonna.
That was so
mad at you.
disgraceful. Okay. Our friend JP also wrote in. He was backing you up, Luke, actually, with your love of trade schools. But even better, his 12-year-old son would like us to do an episode on model rockets and how things like fins and stuff like that affect the flight of a model
Genius.
rocket. And he
Clearly,
wants to.
this kid is taking after his father. He's a pretty smart individual.
Well, that's funny you say that because his son wants to, quote, see if he is if we are as smart as he is. And JP told him that he is already, but he doesn't believe him because we have a podcast and JP does not.
Oh, his son is
So-
clearly smarter than us already.
I love it. And then there's Matt B., fellow Western PA'er.
Good old Matty B.
Yeah, Matty B. That's right. So he's okay in my book. He's in
Yes,
Western PA. Anyways, he works in a local machine shop, and he offered his machining services if we ever need him. So maybe we'll have to take him up on that and make a sweet sign or
We
something.
can get stuff made.
Yeah, I know, because we can't do it.
We're hitting the big time.
We are getting stuff made. We're getting king cakes. Like, we're close to retiring.
Yes.
Just doing this full time. So thank you to everyone for writing in. If you want to get a shout out, if you want to suggest a topic, if you want to send us food, email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com.
Subscribe.
Oh, subscribe.
Find us on socials. Give us reviews. Like, share. Make us the most popular engineering podcast that has two hosts named
in the Pittsburgh area.
James and Luke in Pittsburgh area.
That would be
Let's
great.
do it, people.
I think
Let's
we could
do
make
it.
it a reality.
We could.
Hop on iTunes, write a review.
Yep.
Subscribe, all that jazz. Moving on to the modern-ish process.
Modern-ish.
So I call this the process that was in between the chicken wire and how I see them being built now. And that's by hand carving and basically hand carving out of sheets and sheets and sheets of what they call styrofoam.
What is this styrofoam you speak
It's a
of?
magical material that props are carved out of. And so this
interesting.
styrofoam is basically laid on top of each other, like a silhouette is cut out of the float design that you want on 4-inch thick pieces of styrofoam. It must just make a mess with all that white stuff flying everywhere. Ugh. Anyways, and you just stack as many of those on top of each other as you need. And one of the cool things that I saw is that sometimes they actually shoot a projection on it so that you have a better idea of how you need to then carve the shape into it.
So when I watch the video, how they do this, because you know me and my videos, I love
videos.
me my videos. It's interesting. It's really like a super primitive scale of 3D printing. You're laying down a single layer and getting a profile, laying down a single layer, getting another profile, laying down another layer. So I actually thought it was really cool how it's a layup, and they actually join it with glue in between to keep it all together. So what you end up with is, even though they're only 4 inches thick, you can literally make them as big as you want.
And they get huge.
Yeah, you just glue it together.
You should see the size of some of these things. Like they have King Kong that's just giant. They have like superheroes that are life size. It's amazing what they do and how good they look. And so one of the main reasons they go with styrofoam is not only can they make things a lot faster, but it also holds up to the weather a lot
Crazy
better.
light too.
Super light, yeah, which is, a big advantage for this sort of thing,
And who
especially with
cares
the size
about
they're doing.
And who cares about the environment, right? I know styrofoam
Not you.
never decomposes ever. So
I
who
care about
cares?
my carbon footprint, but you, on the other hand, do not. No? Okay. So after you stack all these layers up, layer after layer with your primitive 3D printing, as Luke says, the artist will then start carving away at this stuff by hand to get the final shape that they want. Now, so like I said, sometimes you project the sketch up there, maybe you'll sketch on it and carve away at it, and from there, it gets paper. How do you say it?
Papier-mâché.
Papier-mâchéed, where, like you said, you take brown craft paper, flour, and water.
Which kills me that it's flour and
How
water.
is that still the way they do it? There has to be a better option.
I would think that they would spray like
That's brilliant.
like something on top of it but the problem is styrofoam is super reactive.
It is.
Like you can't paint directly on styrofoam because the paint will then mess up the styrofoam and starts to decompose it. So maybe you have to do the papier-mâché first.
But there must be something you could apply
it's got to be
nicely.
easier than that.
Maybe we should start a company that does this. I think we're in. Okay. Kern, watch out. We're coming for you. So you put on the papier-mâché, and you get that nice smooth finish then. That's on top of everything. And that's when you go and prime it and then paint it all up. And like you said, why do you have this paper mache? Not only does it give it a nice smooth look, but it also makes sure that the paint doesn't eat away at the styrofoam. So that's useful. And then they can keep being used over and over again. So each prop's sent to be painted. It gets a white base coat of paint, and then it gets its main colors, and then it gets a whole bunch of like detailed colors in there, and it's almost all done with airbrushing. And the amount of detail they get with an airbrush is crazy good. It's always impressive to me because I have zero artistic ability.
I wouldn't
and they're
guess that.
Super good. Really?
I would guess you're very artistic.
Like, even in drafting class, I had trouble with, like, I had a T-square and I still couldn't make straight lines. It's
all right.
terrible. Fun fact, 80% of the floats are made of styrofoam, with the other 20% being fiberglass.
Ooh, fiberglass would be more, I think, way more difficult to work with.
I think it's more difficult to work with. It's more expensive, but it's also much more durable. And it's also light. But I think the thing is then, some of the styrofoam pieces, maybe you could turn into something else.
Yeah.
Whereas the fiberglass,
You're one and
you're
done.
just kind of stuck with that forever,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so there's one more process I wanted to talk about, and that's what I would call the modern process. So we had the old, the modern-ish, which is the technical term, and now the modern process.
Oh, I see. I know what you're going to do here.
So when you go through the tour, in its own little room behind this big piece of glass, you can look in, and there's this amazing 7-axis KUKA robot arm that they use for crafting different parts of these floats and these designs. So they use CAD and CAM systems to create whatever it is you want. So maybe I wanted to create a life-sized Luke, and I could model you in CAD and set it up in our CAM software so that we could carve you out of foam or wood or clay or even stone and make it within 1 millimeter of accuracy.
Wow.
I'd have my own Luke, which would be amazing.
That would be very creepy, but cool.
Right. So this makes things more accurately than humans can and faster than someone crafting by hand.
I would say the biggest problem here, and you might be getting to it, is you're probably really limited to the size of. You'd have to get a pretty. I guess you could piece them together. Like you could do one small section, another section, and glue them together, perhaps.
It's interesting that you say that, Luke, because what's really cool about the robot is it's not stationary. It's actually on, like, so you know the ones that are in like a car factory, and it's like it moves, it picks up the door,
Yeah, it has
puts
like
the door
a
in,
10-foot
and that's
radius it can reach.
This isn't the case for this robot arm because they've mounted it on a rail system so that it can move back and forth on this giant rail
can do like a
and know where it is
huge-
in space.
Wow.
Right. So it can do either multiple designs, like multiple parts at the same time, or one giant part. Plus, the styrofoam or whatever it's cutting out is also on a rotary table, so it can spin it around and move that around so that the robot arm can get to even more of it.
Yeah, what makes it more efficient?
Yeah, that's amazing, though. Just the technology that's going into this robot
To
arm.
make a float that runs one day.
Right, exactly.
In some cases.
This is why it's so interesting to me that so much is invested in this. And now that they're using top of the line technology for CAD and CAM software, they have a 7-axis KUKA robot arm. That's unbelievable to me.
That's crazy. Now, they're probably one of the few places that are doing 7-axis.
Oh, I'm sure.
Float
They're probably
design.
the only one, right?
Yeah.
You'd have to think. Fun fact about this before we wrap up the how it's made part here.
Okay.
The arm is named Pixie, and this is after a woman that worked at the Kern Studio, and this woman could do anything, and they're working to get the robot to be as diverse as Pixie is, or was. Rest in
Okay.
peace, Pixie.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty interesting. What do you think?
I
got
that.
real excited about that robot. I could tell
Yeah,
as I was talking about
I
it.
actually didn't see that because I actually went to the Kern's website, and I guess when I was looking through the website, I didn't see anything about
Yeah.
the robot. That's cool that you actually got to see that in action.
Yeah, and I think that's why I was so excited to do this. It's just like they're using that for this purpose, and because of the field we're in, we know how expensive those robots are,
Yeah, they
how
ain't cheap.
expensive the software is, and that it's not necessarily easy to use.
Yeah, you got to have some pretty intelligent folks to be able to set
Yeah.
up the 3D models, create the tool paths.
And this is all for floats so people can drink and get stuff thrown at them.
Especially like when you're talking like anytime you go above like 2 axes, the toolpath creation.
Oh, yeah.
And if this thing is moving and you're moving the
I know,
styrofoam,
it has to be a
I mean
complete,
that's crazy.
crazy complex. All right, so before we move on to anything else, let's take a break for this week's Luke's rant.
Okay, so my rant is specifically related to Mardi Gras, Fat Tuesday, the Lenten season, if you would call it, because I think that started yesterday. And
Is that fish season?
it's fish season.
That's what I call it. Okay.
So here,
Gross.
you don't like fish?
No.
Okay. So my rant is, and this is more about personal responsibility for individuals. This is
Why
what-
are you looking at me when you say this?
Because you have very little personal responsibility. That's
fair.
why I look at you.
That's fair.
And this is more just, why does something like Fat Tuesday become this holiday synonymous with overindulgence in alcohol? I'll leave it at that. And I guess
We'll go with that.
and I guess my rant is, first of all, we don't need to see all your stuff on Facebook. Whenever you're stupid Fat Tuesday drinking fest because you're going into the Lenten season and you're supposed to give up alcohol for 40 days and 40 nights or whatever it is. I just come on. Let's be responsible. And these are adults I see. These are people that are in some cases older than me,
And that's old.
It is old, and so I just feel like celebrate Mardi Gras. You can indulge a little bit in whatever you desire for Fat Tuesday. Give up something if that's what you choose to do for Lent. If you don't choose to do, like, I don't do Lent. Do you do Lent?
No.
Okay, I don't do Lent. So I just feel like as adults, we just need to all be a little more responsible and not lean on a holiday like Fat Tuesday to just be stupid. Facebook was just terrible last night. It was killing me.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
I'm sure you probably saw all the same posts or similar posts.
Probably.
It's like, really, do I need to see this?
Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I guess the same goes for St. Patrick's Day, too, coming up. But, yeah, I think it's really interesting, too, though, because, like you said, it's all adults. It's all people that, like, have real jobs, because we're going to get into the costs of this stuff coming up.
Yeah.
And this is how you're behaving? Don't you
Yeah.
have to go to work tomorrow?
And now, if you go to Mardi Gras and you're actually there and you decide to indulge,
then it's okay.
I wouldn't personally.
Right,
But if you decide to indulge, I'm not necessarily going to judge you
But
for
you're
indulging.
saying in Pittsburgh you don't need to pretend like this is
You
something,
don't need
because
to
it's not.
You don't need to run around with beads
Right.
down at Casey's Tuesday night.
Casey's.
Is Casey's even open anymore?
I don't know. I think so.
Okay.
All right.
Sorry, that
let's
really
move
went on for a while.
No,
Sorry.
I loved it. Okay, so do you want to talk a little bit more about what? Maybe like the rules of the floats? Because there's
Yeah.
actually rules, which I did not know.
Yeah, so there's actually rules for the float. But before we talk about the rules, we have to talk a little bit about like the substructure.
Oh yeah. Good point.
So most of these floats nowadays, and whenever I was thinking of floats, I was thinking like these are the floats that they put on top of, like if you watch the Macy's Day Parade this year, it was sponsored by Ram trucks. And basically they just took a Ram pickup truck and wrapped a float around it. And I think that happens in some cases, but from what I noticed with the Mardi Gras floats, the majority of these are typically flatbed trailers that are towed by another vehicle. And then they have this thing called a crew that is associated, and they spell it Krewe. I don't know why they spelled, and it's meant to be the word crew, like CREW, like a crew of people. I don't know why they
People
spelled it
that
wrong.
man the float.
So basically, a crew either pays someone like Kearns to build this for them. They give them a theme, they give them money, and they build this for them. It's typically going to be on a flatbed trailer, and these range in all different sizes depending on how much money you have. And when they build this, there's obviously a wooden structure because it has to have some safety features in mind. So one of the interesting ones is anytime you're standing on the float, there needs to be a minimum of like a knee wall so people don't fall off of the float. So, and it has to be something structural.
Overindulging.
Yeah, and it has to be something structural that you could actually lean on. So it can't just be papier-mâché. There needs to be a 2x4 structure underneath there that's connected to the flatbed truck that is actually a railing. So there's all kinds of safety issues that goes along with this. So a couple of them. So it's permissible to display the float title or the crew name of the business, but you are not allowed to advertise.
I thought that's interesting.
Your float,
because paying for these, you're not allowed to have sponsors,
which is crazy.
Well, they don't want it to be commercial.
Yeah, which is crazy. So the maximum height, and this was interesting because you talk about how big they are, and this was the official rules I found. The maximum height is 13 feet, but I guess that's still pretty big.
That's very tall
for a street.
Because of the overpasses.
Exactly.
Along
the lowest overpass along the Mardi Gras route is I guess probably 14 feet or something like
it's
that.
13 feet 6 inches or something.
Yeah. The maximum width or the recommended width, and this is more for navigation, is 12 feet. This one I did not understand. So portable toilets must be disguised and decorated.
That makes sense. Nobody wants to see your porta potty on board.
But my guess is you're on these. I mean, how long is the parade route?
It takes a while.
Are you on the?
They're slow and
Okay.
You're drinking the whole
So
time.
I didn't understand that
Yeah.
you were on these for potentially hours. So that makes sense that the porta potty needs to be decorated. Now that you say that, they have to have fire extinguishers and they
Makes
need to
sense.
have proof of insurance because these things are made out of wood and paper. And styrofoam, when that stuff catches fire, it's like black smoke. And
It's like there's just a hole in the ozone after that.
yeah. The specifics, the railings must, typical railings can't have more than a 3-inch space, needs to be 42 inches tall. And the sides of the float, and this is more for safety, they should be 20 inches off the street. So you don't necessarily see the flatbed trailer that is around it. So it looks like just the float. But the interesting thing is I did a little research on the cruise. I don't know if you have anything on the cruise. These typically are like fraternal organizations in a lot of cases.
Like social groups.
Or social groups, or like a group of businesses, or in some cases a company perhaps that sponsors it. And they basically pay for the float. They pay all the entry fees to get into it. They follow whatever rules they need to follow to build the float. But then you can't, you and I can't just go get on a float. Or if we do, we got to pay for it. We got to pay an entry fee to get into the club, I guess. So I just thought that was a little jive.
I think the whole crew thing's rather interesting. And I think it's probably because, again, it's grown adults doing this.
Yeah.
And they're paying between thousands of dollars to $20 to join these crews.
Yeah, I saw $3,500 on the high end.
Isn't that nuts? And so, like you said, this is paying for the floats, and it's also then you have to pay for the stuff that you throw at people. So be it beads
throw a lot of
or
stuff.
coconuts or whatever it is that you throw, candy, you have to pay for that as well. And, of course, you have this beautiful float. You need to have a costume as well that you wear. And I have some prices that I'll break down here in a bit. But the first cruise were known as the Old Line Cruise, and these are great because I don't know how to say any of them. The Kistic Crew of Comus, Crew of Proteus, Rex, 12th Night Revealers, and Knights of Momus.
Nailed every one of them.
This sounds super nerdy.
It does.
Which is why I'm okay with
It's
it.
like Knights of Columbus kind of stuff is my guess.
Basically, yeah. Super Crews exist. These have over 1,000 active dues-paying members and maintain 500 riders each parade. Because these crews have multiple floats. It's not just one float.
Oh,
they can have
okay.
15 floats in there that people ride on, which is crazy.
That seems like a ridiculous waste of money and or time.
Yeah.
I'm
Two
sorry.
that I'm okay with. One is the Mystic Crew of Barkus and the Crew de Paws for your animal friends.
Okay.
And then the Intergalactic Crew of Chewbacca's is a sci-fi themed crew.
I would like that one.
Yeah, see, I knew there was something for everyone here. So a little bit about the price, and I'll run through this pretty quickly. So this is secret information from a mid-sized crew because apparently this is all supposed to be hush-hush. For a 14-float procession, they spent $260,000.
For 14 floats?
For 14 floats, yes.
Wow.
And it can be estimated that well over $6 million each year is spent on these floats then. The breakdown of the $260K, almost half was for the throws, so the crap that they throw at you. The second largest expense was to rebuild the floats. That was $53,000. So you'll have those emblem floats like I talked about, usually 2 or 4 of them that you keep. Then to buy a new floats, usually around $20K, but it's a lot less if you're just revamping it from the year before.
Yeah, because you're keeping the substructure and just adding new styrofoam.
Right. So the float barn where you store the thing is going to run you about $40K, which is a lot for that many floats.
Wow.
Costumes, for paraders spend about $32K across the 250 riders. Insurance, you need $5K. Horses or tractors to pull these things, another $4,000. Paying for the drivers, another $1,000. Marching bands, you need marching bands in your parade, another $1,000 per band or per parade. Yeah, per band per parade. Truck bands, because you need bands in your trucks as well, apparently, $500. And then permits just to do this, a measly $250. So the crew of Endymion? I don't know. It's a big crew.
Who knows what these names even mean?
1.2 million is what they think. Wow. But they also have like celebrity marshals. Like maybe we would get asked to be a celebrity marshal. If anybody runs a crew or is part of it and you want unprofessional engineering involved, I mean, I'll go even if you want some
famous people.
Yeah.
So did you happen to see yesterday during the parade the Roger Goodell referee float?
I didn't.
It was basically 30 people dressed up as referees with looks like blindfolds on, and they had all these signs about, because the Saints are bitter about what happened.
Yeah, the big miscall.
Yeah, so my guess is that'll probably be a continuous theme at the upcoming Mardi Gras.
Oh, that's wonderful. So. Goodness. Do you have anything else?
I got nothing else.
I had one other thing, and that's how do you get on a float? Because that's important, because we're not in Nolans.
I would never get it. We're not in New Orleans.
Yeah. So the Sheraton New Orleans has teamed up with the crew of Orpheus to offer Mardi Gras experience packages. And this basically gets you picked up at the airport. It gets you on a float. You get to ride around. This crew was actually founded by Harry Connick Jr. That's a little weird fact.
Very weird.
But it's very expensive, but you could do that. There's also Mardi Gras Made Easy. Letter E-Z.
I gotcha. I see what you did.
It's a VIP service which does similar things. You can also have parties at the Superdome and the convention centers there as part of this package. So you have to have big money for this.
Yeah.
Some crew members sell their spots on Craigslist or other such sites. That might be the easiest way.
Me?
Yep. If you want to live Carnival style, like the locals, the newer co-ed crews allowed out-of-towners to join, and you just pay your dues online. Seems like you're missing out on some of the experience, but, why not?
You just said co-ed. Are you saying that most of the crews
some
are men only?
Some of them are not, yes.
Oh, wow.
That's what I've heard.
Let's get up to date here, folks.
I know,
come on.
Really?
It's 2017, 2020, 19. 2019.
I like that 20 was an option.
Sorry.
One of the most colorful processions in New Orleans, sponsored by the Carnival Walking Club, parades on Mardi Gras morning, and it's free. What a novel idea. So anyone can join this parade, and sorry we're late for this, but wear something wonderful is the quote, and show up around 9:30 at the corner of Royal and Carolac Street. So,
I think we should do that one year.
I think we should get on a float.
I mean, I'm a teetotaler, so I'm not going to drink.
But I'm not, and I will.
But I think it could be interesting. I mean, I don't know if I would enjoy it as much because I feel like it's a lot of drinking, and that's kind of what Mardi Gras is.
And the streets are smelly.
And I
really
don't do that, so I don't know if that would. Yeah.
Well, maybe we could be on the float though and do a live, broadcasted episode to everyone on the streets. What do you think?
We have to find a crew for next year to get us on.
Let's hit up the crew of Chabakius and see if they're into that. What do you think?
Awesome.
All right. Hopefully people enjoyed our Mardi Gras Spectacular.
Finally got this one over.
I know. Luke's so happy it's done. If you liked it, write in, let us know. If not, I don't care. I liked it. So until next time.
See ya.